What I would say about drones is it's fascinating that we are seeing such a proliferation of drones. The technologies of flying unmanned aircraft, of course, are decades old, but the 21st century is when they've really come into their own in many ways. First, with big attacks against Al Qaeda leaders in parts of South Asia by the United States and other such uses. And then now in the Ukraine war, but of course, other places as well. And now we're seeing these mysterious drone sightings in the United States, usually near the coast, as I understand what's been happening, and usually near military bases or the homes of public officials. But again, a wide range of potential explanations. And we don't really know what's going on. And so the fact that these are often near coast suggests that maybe sometimes they're shipborne drones. You would expect that we would have better reconnaissance capabilities, but the United States, of course, has had a history of its homeland largely being a sanctuary, except on December 7th, 1941 and September 11th, 2001, and a couple other times in history. So we've usually not been too forward-looking about defending our own territory. And when we have talked about it in the last 25 years, it's been more about missile defense against long-range, high-speed ballistic missiles as opposed to unmanned aircraft. We don't really know what's going on. My guess is there are a lot of pranksters and individual operators who are Americans who are just doing this to see what they can do with their little technology they bought down at some Radio Shack. But we can't rule out the possibility of substantially more concerning kinds of foreign action, and we're going to have to learn more. We really are finding ourselves underprepared even to understand what's happening. I don't think people should be too worried, but I think people should keep a little pressure on the government to do a little better here. And I don't know, I'm not that interested in blaming people for what they haven't done up until now, but I think we need to keep prodding the government to do better in the future, figuring out a better sensor network, figuring out, with some more decisive action if necessary, where these things came from, getting our hands on some of them, and not just baby talking the population into telling people they shouldn't worry when we actually don't know the origin or purpose of many of these drones. That's not a very appropriate way for government to act. I mean, I'm trying to say that I know of no reason why people should be overly worried, but I'm not trying to trivialize the situation. I don't think government should try to do that either. So it's time to really push for some clearer understandings, some better situational awareness and surveillance, and some answers.
In our view, we don't think there's anything concrete to worry about right now, but that it would be helpful for us to have a better understanding of what's going on in the airspace. We've been pushing for rules that expand the current authorities about what we call detection and mitigation, sort of having sensors set up around the country that would help us understand what's in the airspace beyond what we already know about traditional aircraft, whether that's airplanes or helicopters or drones that are operating. Right now, there's what's called remote identification for drones that are required. If you're flying, your drone should be sending out a signal over Bluetooth or Wi-Fi so that people on the ground could use a phone or other device to say, hey, I know what that drone is. It has essentially a license plate. So that if local law enforcement want to reach out to federal law enforcement or the FAA, they have a record of who's operating. That's somebody who's operating lawfully. Then there are also technologies that do things like detection for either using radio or radar or specialized cameras like thermal or that can basically see things that the human eye can't see, as well as flight tracking software that you've seen across the news around the country, where someone's filing a flight plan or sending out a signal from an airplane. There are systems that integrate sort of all of these different layers that help us understand who's operating out there. And if we can't figure out who it is, or we don't see them on that tracker, then maybe it's somebody who might be doing something nefarious. Yeah, personally, from what I've seen from the videos and pictures and things that have been posted online, I think a lot of the aircraft you're seeing are traditional planes and helicopters in normal air traffic, or satellites or stars. I think that having flown drones at night, you have to understand that the eyes that you have can play tricks on you. So something may look like it's slow moving or hovering just because it's really so far away, or it's at an angle that's how it presents. There's something called a parallax effect. We have to go through training if you want to fly your drone at night to help understand some of those ideas and some of those complications on how to correctly scan the sky how to correctly identify what is operating there and whether or not it's really close or far away. Drones are a great capability that we have both in the commercial space as well as in the defense space, and we don't want to see operations and situations like this shut down all the progress that we've been making in recent years.
I won't say it's much ado about nothing, because it is clearly something. But I would say that the vast majority, 99% sort of majority, are the sorts of objects you would see in the nightly sky every night, and they are perhaps being supplemented by people who are deciding that it's a great time to go play with their hobby drone, because who knows what notoriety might result. The other issue, I think, is some very, very poor advice that's being handed out by influential individuals, including the idea of either illuminating these objects with lasers, for example, which is a felony. It's a felony to interfere with the operation of an airline flight, of an aircraft in flight. And then even worse, people who actually suggest that someone should go try and shoot these objects down. While there are drones, there really are, and they vary from small, less than a quarter pound, to very large, tens of pounds. But they are used by professionals typically, or the military, also very professional. And they are not what's being referred to as, aliens or, other sorts of nefarious devices. I think that's really the bottom line here. It was funny when it started. It's not funny now, because you've got people suggesting or urging, in some cases, individuals in their own capacity to take very, very dangerous, potentially very, very dangerous activities against these whatever they believe them to be, and it really needs to be stopped at a high level.